Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, a bikie-backed drug ring has been busted in a major land and sea raid in Dover. A shop front was smashed and fishing vessels stripped during the operation, which was 6 months in the making. 2 people are now in custody.
Drones, dogs, drugs. The target, Dover.
There were over 60 officers involved. The Australian Border Force AFP, we also had dog handler unit and our special operations team.
The surprise sting blasted through a local takeaway, leaving a trail of shattered glass. Boats ransacked, drugs and evidence seized. In the crosshairs, local links to the Bandidos outlaw motorcycle gang. A man and a woman, both 44, are now being questioned by police.
It is expected that charges will be laid later this evening, and those charges will relate to serious fraud and drug charges.
The raid was swift. Local businesses told 7 Tasmania the operation was short and sharp, but the build-up wasn't. Police say today has been 6 months in the making.
Our intention is to disrupt those gangs and disrupt those activities and make it hard for people to cause harm to other members of the community.
Police aren't ruling out more arrests as the battle against bikies rages on, even in the furthest corners of the state. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
A 67-year-old man died after a tractor accident in Chudley last night. The Tasmania Ambulance Service attended the farming property, but the man died at the scene. An investigation is underway into the circumstances of the incident. Another review will be held to determine if Tasmanian World War II hero Teddy Sheehan should receive a Victoria Cross. He went down with a sinking ship in 1942, strapping himself to a gun to try and protect his fellow sailors from enemy aircraft. A 2019 appeal tribunal recommended he receive the award, but the federal government went against this, citing a lack of compelling new evidence. Now the Prime Minister is commissioning a review into that review.
Given there are different views on whether there is compelling new evidence about the Sheehan's actions in 1942, the Prime Minister has today commissioned an expert panel to provide him with advice as to whether the 2019 review by the Defence Honours and Awards Appeals Tribunal has indeed any new evidence.
The government says it will continue to apply a very high evidentiary standard for the Victoria Cross. Aboriginal leaders say they're hopeful after their first face-to-face meeting with Premier Peter Gutwein. Land returns, seats in Parliament and legal services all featured in talks, with both sides vowing to work together.
Walking in for their first meeting with the Premier, the list of issues was long but time was short.
Come on up.
Well done.
40 minutes later, Aboriginal leaders emerged with some hope.
Because we now believe, for the first time in 6 years, the government at least is hearing what Aboriginal people are saying.
They want action on land returns, bringing back Indigenous legal services and returning artefacts to the community.
The Premier made it very clear that he's committed to the petroglyphs being returned.
There's a process to go through. The government is of the view that the Aboriginal relics petroglyphs do need to be returned to the Aboriginal community.
Dedicated places in Parliament are also high on the agenda, although the government has so far ruled out the idea.
We talked about the need for Aboriginal people to be part of the decision-making process. That is, a voice inside the Parliament, not outside the Parliament.
The meeting comes just days after rallies in support of Black Lives Matter.
From the Black Lives Matters rallies we've had, people are ready and want things to change. They want this silence to end.
Calls are growing to rename landmarks named after colonial figures like the Batman Bridge.
Dual naming is an action of this government as well, but there are other areas, of course, that we are more than willing to explore to ensure that we have a very positive relationship moving forward.
Another meeting is planned between the TAC and the government next month. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, Tasmania's once thriving artistic sector is beginning to bounce back following months of coronavirus closures and cancellations. TMAG is preparing to open its doors for the first time in 2 months. While smaller spaces are also edging closer to reopening their much anticipated exhibitions.
Dusting off the dinosaurs and testing the technology. The Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery reopening on June 23. But things won't be back to normal just yet, with bookings now mandatory.
There'll be 2 hour, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock and 2 p.m. Session times. People will have to book online. Again, very simple, click button on your online.
The measures that will take place will include hygiene measures, increased cleaning and of course social distancing. So I think 80 people can be present in the museum at one time.
You have the museum almost to yourself, so it's a very intimate experience.
It's exciting news for staff, but the arts will look very different in Tasmania for a long time yet. Under different circumstances, Dark Mofo would have kicked off tonight, while smaller operators have had to face an uncertain future.
Our first priority was, as an organisation, whether we would survive.
Here at the Salamanca Arts Centre, this exhibition, its major one for the year, was meant to open in March. Then the pandemic hit.
People who've worked for months and months on planning and hanging the exhibition. The work is here, is ready to go.
Now, finally, it's able to open on Tuesday. The Performing Arts also waiting for its curtain call. Theatre North hoping to start filling some of these empty seats.
Audiences can expect to see a range of smaller scale performances throughout 2020, and as soon as those social distancing requirements are lifted, we look forward to wowing them in 2021.
But social distancing means it could be a while before there's a full house.
Once the arts recovers, which will be a long road, audiences can expect to see something really special.
Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
A man has been flown to hospital and 4 others injured after their boat collided with a whale near Freycinet this afternoon. A rescue helicopter and police were called to the Shooten Passage area around 1:30 after the 6-metre recreational fishing vessel collided with the animal. 4 of the men on board received non-life-threatening injuries and 1 needed further treatment. De Pipwe has been notified. The battle to eradicate the sea urchin from Tasmania's coastline is slowly being won. New research from the University of Tasmania estimates the population has decreased by more than 10% in the past 3 years, with commercial fishing helping slash the numbers.
It's a small spiky creature creating big problems in Tasmanian waters. Since being first discovered near St Helens in 1978, the state's sea urchin population swelled to an estimated 20 million in 2017. Its feeding habits robbing local seas of kelp.
It's like deforestation. They eat the base of the kelp and then all that's left is bare rock and urchins.
Commercial fishing was introduced in 2009 to help reduce numbers, with University of Tasmania researchers last year conducting the first study into its impact. The figures showing a substantial amount have been caught.
1,000 tonnes of urchins have been removed, which is 2.5 million urchins. So that's quite a good chunk on the 20 million that was estimated.
They're at a size where we would expect them to have an impact on the stock of urchins, and that's what we want. We want to see the urchin stock being reduced, so it seems like that's what's happening.
560 tonnes were caught last year, while researchers say catch rates have dropped below 300 kilograms per hour. Divers on the northeast coast forced to change tactics.
They indicated that they'd actually been having to go deeper with using nitrox to sustain the high catch rates that they need.
With the data showing some positive signs towards a recovery, scientists are now looking to the future and how to replenish and regenerate affected areas.
30,000 lobsters are being moved every year from deep water areas off the west coast of Tasmania. They're being shifted and released on the east coast, and that's just trying to really kick-start and accelerate that rebuilding.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
James Boggs' brewing process has been adversely impacted after Lion, its parent company, fell victim to a cyber attack. The attack resulted in a full shutdown of its IT systems, but there is no evidence of any data breaches. The company says the attack couldn't have come at a worse time, with its clients recovering after COVID-19 closures. Libraries are preparing to reopen some services as Tasmania moves into stage 2 of lifted restrictions. From today, bookings are open to access Hobart's archives, heritage and reference collections. And by June 18, all libraries will be open for click and collect. Computer and internet access will also be available by appointment. Further openings are expected to be rolled out next month. It's a parent's biggest concern, the health and well-being of their child. A new action plan has been released aiming to teach children how to be active in the hopes of improving learning outcomes.
The latest initiative to stop our state's children from being couch potatoes. Months of lockdown has hindered sports across Tasmania, but it hasn't decreased students' passion.
I like mountain biking and footy. It's something to do outside of school with people you enjoy playing games with, I guess.
I really enjoy sport. I do tennis, a lot of swimming and mainly horse riding.
The government releasing its latest action plan promoting physical well-being.
Physical activity, of course, creates safe, well and positive learners. And the plan contains very key actions around physical activity, good nutrition and of course utilising our assets around the state in terms of our environmental and field study centres.
The program promotes an active lifestyle for all school-age children, helping them to understand healthy eating, sleep hygiene and mental well-being.
For all students, physical education is a prerequisite to being able to learn, being healthy.
But coronavirus restrictions hasn't made physical activity easy for schools.
With coronavirus, it's much harder, but we still do games like ladders and we do occasional tag games.
Our PE teacher has come up with a revised program around activities that still enable children to be active but not using equipment that can't be cleaned after each activity.
Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
The Tasmanian State League has confirmed it will play a shortened season this year. For more, let's bring in reporter Tom Johnson. Good evening, Tom. Now, the season's going to be run on a shoestring budget, though.
Yes, Kim, it'll be a bare-bones season in many ways. Players won't be paid for games this year, and umpires are also taking a hit. Their payments have been slashed to ensure the season is viable. Now, the following plan is for the men's and women's TSL competitions, along with the Development League, and all relies, of course, on the state government's blessing. The season will run from July 18 until no later than October 18. The 7 teams will play each other twice before a 2-week final series takes place. And AFL Tasmania will draw up the fixture in the coming weeks. Now, we'll find out more tomorrow when AFL Tasmania boss Tricia Squires fronts the media, but she's hinted we could see some new ideas for this season. And as for crowds, we're due to be on the next stage of COVID restrictions by then, which means hopefully there will be at least some people allowed to watch from the boundary, Kim.
And I'm sure you'll be one of them. Thanks very much, Tom.
Good evening. Well, things warmed up dramatically last night compared to Monday night. The coldest was only -3 at Fingal. Today's top 15 at Smithton. Hobart and Devonport 14, Launceston and Burnie 13 degrees. Temperatures in the mid to low teens today. Lowhead, Ouse and the Islands 14, St Helens, Friendly Beaches and Grove 13, Strawn 12, Lyoweeney gets a mention, a top of 6 degrees. Extensive cloud over the state today. A few showers fell over the west and southwest, but no heavy falls to report. An area of low pressure and an oncoming front brought cloud around Western Australia. Another band of cloud pushed across the Bight and to our south. A little low cloud along the New South Wales coast, parts of Queensland and the top end. Tomorrow a cold front weakens as it crosses Tasmania as a high builds to our southwest. Another high is centred over Victoria. Northwesterly winds at 15 to 25 knots, tending southwesterly before easing at 10 to 20 knots during the day tomorrow. Easterly winds developing over Bass Strait in the evening. For tomorrow, Hobart expecting just 12 with a morning shower. Rain easing from Cygnet, 11 the high and 12 for New Norfolk with morning showers. Launceston 13 with showers. Mostly late showers for Devonport, 13 the top as well and 10 the high for Campbelltown. Burnie, showers increasing late in the day, 14 the maximum, 11 for Strawn with rain easing, Smithton 13 degrees. St Helens a high of 13 with a shower or two. They'll ease from Swansea later, 12 the top and 11 for Fingal. On Friday, showers over the west and north extending to the east late morning, a cloudy 13 in Hobart. Early showers over the north and east on Saturday and over the west later in the day. And on Sunday, showers across the state easing during the afternoon and evening. Showers and a possible storm for Perth, an early frost in Adelaide before a sunny afternoon, early fog for Melbourne, a top of 15, a possible shower for Sydney, a shower as well for Brisbane. Cloudy in Hobart, it's 12 degrees at the moment, 9 in Launceston, 11 and mostly cloudy in Devonport. Interesting news about the cricketers there, Kim, not being able to use saliva to use on the ball during cricket this year. After that news got around, apparently all the bowlers have spat it.
Oh, very good, but I did wonder where you were going with that joke to start with, Murph. That's all we have for this Wednesday. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.